Welcome. This is Offtrack Autocast. This is Eric Bowman, and I'm here with.
Jesse Lastinger.
And today we're going to be talking about what Offtrack Autocast is. Pretty much what we want it to become and what content we want to talk about and the topics and stuff like that. Obviously, in the name, Offtrack Autocast, we do go to the track and we do a bunch of race car stuff. And we talk about that stuff, the events, and we talk about builds, and we talk about what we want, what car we want, what races we want to go to. And Jesse just got himself a 350Z, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to want to talk about too.
Yeah, so a lot of the content that you're going to hear from me is going to be a lot of drifting stuff. I basically just bought this car for drifting and only drifting. So I am beginning that now. So that's going to be a lot of my things that I'll be talking about. And I know that, Eric, I know you're more of a broader person when it comes to cars. I know you like rally and drifting. And tell them about what car you have now.
Well, right now I have the FRS. It's like a street drift build. But before I talk about that, I had a Miata that I used strictly for drifting for a few years. And that's kind of like what got me blossomed into this whole car scene and like doing racing and drifting and stuff like that. And then I got the FRS, and then I kind of took a break to try to, get some financial stuff underway. But now
life happens.
I'm at that point where I'm about to open up the floodgates, and I want to do a rallycross car and circle track and drifting. And then Jesse's going to be drifting, and then he also wants to compete. So I'm sure I'm going to be helping him build his Pro-Am car, and then we're going to be traveling and all that stuff. So it's going to get intense because the floodgates are open and we're both about to be broke as fuck. So
that's one thing we will always have in common. Once we get started in this, we will be broke as fuck.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part is because it's like it's fun and it's super hard not to spend all your time and money on doing it. So that's
Bro,
why
listen, I've been finding shit all over. Look at this shit in my head. I have garage sale shit all over the place. This is G.I. Joe's, right? I've been selling shit on. Listen, I've had them since I was a kid, right? I made an extra $150 this weekend just by selling 2 big machines from G.I. Joe's.
So pretty much that's what Off-Track Autocast is about. It's mostly automotive content, and we're probably going to be talking a lot of shit and shooting the shit, but we like to debate a lot because Jesse has this vision of going pro. And then I have 2 years of experience spending my money on drifting. So I'm like, bro, you don't even realize how much money you're fixing to spend. And he's like, I'll be fine. I got it. He's over here selling G.I. Joes. Like, I'm buying shit.
The hustle's real, though.
Dude,
the hustle's real.
That's gas and entry fee to a grassroots event. Like, that ain't even close to like driving to a Pro-Am event.
Listen, that's just one thing that I sold. That's just one thing.
I know. I'm just saying. So you'll definitely have 2 different perspectives because he's ambitious. He's got some goals. I'm
very ambitious.
And I am also ambitious, but I'm also a realist when it comes down to my money. And I'm like, it's hard for me to go broke.
Listen, to me, this is my thing. I'm good enough that I'll attract the money. So the money I'm not worried about. What I'm worried about is producing content so I can get it out to people that have the money. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part. And we'll definitely be talking about that too. That's another topic, like sponsorship and content creation and just a content outlet. This stuff, you're doing it for yourself to a degree because it's nice to document and it's fun to do, but at the same time, you're trying to attract other people to it so you can get sponsorships and stuff like that. So we'll definitely be talking about both aspects of that because I'm doing this more of like an enthusiast, but it would be fantastic if, someone seen my pretty face and was like, hey, let me put a sticker on your car. And you know what I mean? So it's like,
see, I'm going at it where I have no other option. I have nothing else going for me in my life. So I need this to work.
You're going for broke. And I'm like, I'm not going to zero, baby.
Listen, I jumped off the cliff, dog. I'm building the airplane on the way down.
But see, that I also feel like is a trait of someone who can make it, because if you're not willing to go broke, you're not going to make it. You know what I mean?
1,000%.
Because like,
1,000%. Well, that's why I got into roommates. Because I've never lived with roommates, ever. I've always had plenty of money to be able to live by myself, even though it's still an arm and a leg to live by yourself in fucking Brandon.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And then, okay, so back to your point about the videoing and the documenting, something that I learned that was pretty cool was how much you can learn by going back to the footage and watching yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I have literally watched the clip or all the clips at the track, my first track day, 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I already can't wait to get back to the track because I know what I need to do differently.
Yeah, you know what you need to work on.
Yeah,
and that's also a good thing, because a lot of people don't do that. They don't overanalyze. They kind of just like send it and then go home and then fucking go back to the next drift event and send it again. Yeah. And just do the same mistake over and over and over and over and over and over. And then they're like, I need more power. And it's like, nah, bro, you learn how to drive.
Yeah, there was unfortunately a guy there that had a really nice car. And he just, I mean, it was clean, it was nice, everything about it was like, hell yeah, that's a perfect drift car. And you could tell it was, people focused too much on their builds rather than something very simple to get out there and actually learn. Yeah. And that's one other thing I was excited about for the Genesis, was that when I heard that guy talk about how small the turning, or how shitty the turning radius was, I'm thinking, at least I learned on something that was shitty.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, but that's also like, one of the like cons also is if you learn on something that's shitty, your habits are from a shitty setup car. So let's say you learned how to drive a car that was set up super, super shitty, but you learned how to drive it. All your driving patterns are going to be for that super, super shitty setup. So when you go to a legit setup, you have to relearn everything. So that's the one thing that I do notice was when people overbuild is they never get used to the setup. They're like, I need to change this. I need to change this. I need to change this.
There's nothing consistent.
And they never get used to it. So like with my car, like I'm at that point to where this last drift event, I have it set up to where I want it. And by the end of the event, I started getting really good control over the car, but I'm not changing anything on this event. The next event, it's going to stay exactly the same. And the only thing I'll play with is like tire pressure to change up my grip levels. Yeah. That's literally it. When I go to the next event, the alignment's going to be the same. The way the car handles is going to be the same. I also daily drive it. So it's like I'm super comfortable in the car because of that aspect versus someone who jumps in their car once every 3 months.
Well, that's what I was really excited about, of how I performed on the track on my first day. Because, I mean, this thing sits in the garage until the drift event. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a tag on it. It's street legal. Yeah. But driving with a welded diff is such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I agree.
It's literally, you got to fucking semi-truck it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to, it's finding that fine balance. And you also put those solid bushings in there. And you're not going to want to be on the street with solid bushings. Like,
listen, this thing is
kudos to anybody who does that shit, because it is cool for like the first hour, but if you drive longer than that, you're hating your life.
So. See, I love it. I like hearing all the noises and shit. Yeah. Like I never listen to the radio. I love that shit.
Not me, bro. I got my music on. I'm jamming, relaxing. But yeah, that's pretty.
So another good thing, back to your point there, is I was going to add an e-brake for my next drift event. And I thought to myself, like, that was my first time doing transitions. Why am I trying to already do something different when I can sit there and do the same transition over and over and over and over again, to where then I have that down instead of just, okay, I did it, now let's move on to the next thing. Like, I'd rather be like, okay, I'm fucking bomb at this, now let's go to the next thing.
Yeah. It's just like how people will go like, it's donut, figure eight, to an actual like layout. Like if you don't master the donut and the figure eight, is as simple as it sounds, is that figure eight, you're literally practicing transitioning. That's all it is. And once you master that figure eight, when you go into the track, once you get into drift, your subconscious programming, you're going to know what to do because you mastered the figure eight. You're like, all right, the weight's fixing to transfer to the left, throw the wheel, catch it. All right, we're fixing transition to the right. I need this much throttle. Like all that shit correlates. But a lot of people, they want to skip those little small steps because it's not sexy. And the crowd's not, cheering you on because you're sitting there practicing donuts around a cone. Well, but it's essential at the same time. You know what I mean?
Listen, yeah. So I ran the same line every single time, and to the point to where I would sit there and drive to the line. I would get done with the line and then drive, not drift over there, drive over to the line. And I found
this again. You're like, let me do this again. Let me do this.
Yeah. And I could listen. I found my driving time on the track got less and less. Yeah. They were like, this.
You were getting faster. Oh, your physical flag time. Okay, I thought you meant like your drive time, like your lap time. But yeah, they will definitely do that. Like if there's people there and it's, that's the one thing I do like about OSW, Orlando Speed World, is on the skid pad, there's a layout. There's no like, you get to drift here for a minute and a half or till I decide to kick you off. They have it set, like, here's the layout. You do the layout. After you do the layout, you're off the track. And the same thing is when you get on the oval, you're doing the FD layout. You get to do it twice, and once you're done with it, you're supposed to get off the track. And then you have idiots that aren't paying attention, but, that's the way it's supposed to work. And that's why I feel like Orlando flows a lot better than when you go to, like, Showtime, to where they just let this idiot out there spinning around doing donuts for 2 minutes just because they're not paying attention. They're playing on their phone. And then you got someone out there who actually wants to drift. They give 45 seconds because they're actually paying attention. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I was definitely excited for how much time I had. I mean, each time I had like 4 to 5 minutes on the track.
Yeah.
So it was actually a lot more than I thought. And for only bringing one set of tires, it was the perfect amount for me.
Yeah.
But definitely, I can't wait to get the canvas.
Yeah.
On the car. Another thing is that this fucking car, bro, is so balanced.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even drive. Like, I just get out of the way of the car and just let the car do the work. And it's so simple.
That is the one nice thing about starting with an easy chassis. It's like you actually get to learn to drive versus making the car drivable. The car's ready. You just got to drive. But yeah, that's essentially what this podcast is going to be about. We're going to be talking about car stuff, events, car setup, pretty much anything that automotive related that we're interested into. And then we're going to be talking about, Jesse's journey to Pro-Am, and then through my builds and all that stuff, and then interview guests and have other people that are into the same thing. And then obviously if y'all have input, you can let us know and we could, do that too. So that's why it's a little flexible.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of my biggest things of what I want to bring to this, is to show somebody's journey from straight beginning to making it.
Yeah.
And because this is the thing, is like you can still go try out for Pro-Am and still suck.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can still go out there and do it. So just going and showing this, and then maybe being able to look back at it and be like, yo, like.
Yeah, watch this video of me trying to do Pro-Am in my stock 350Z. Fucking going up against this 600 wheel horsepower fucking E36 just dusted me. But
I need to figure out, I think is there a horsepower limit?
No. Supposedly they just adopted the rules for Pro 2 for Pro-Am. So essentially you need, like, the new additions are a fire suppressant system. You have to have a 255 millimeter wide tire. So you're kind of limited power wise because you have to get the power down to a 255.
Yeah,
you have 1,000 horsepower. You're not going to put it down on a fucking 255. And then if you have 2 laps to do and you fucking roast them off on the first lap, you're going to have no grip the second lap. So power is like one of those things. It's not really a necessity in Pro-Am, but at the same time, is like a lot of guys will use power to try to, get a gap in the beginning because that might be their like main focus. Like, oh, I'm just gonna pull away and initiate, and then you're so far behind that it doesn't even look like you're doing what you're doing. So it's not a good battle. But then at the same time, they have to control 600 fucking horsepower behind your 200 horsepower car.
Yeah.
So if they have too much grip dialed in and stuff like that, they're going to straighten out because they're literally going to fucking you remember watching?
They're gonna be fighting that the whole damn time.
See, back in the day, Daigo Saito, he would come up to a car, go away. Come up to a car,
Yeah.
go away. Come up. It's because he had 1,000 horsepower and they had 500, and he could just. So yeah. So if they're really good at being able to put their like high horsepower car up on a slower car and then like coming off and then coming back up and coming off and coming back up, then they'll do fine. But most of the time they don't know how to do that. They usually are good with the lead run and then tandeming with cars that are relatively the same setup. That's the hardest part, is drifting behind someone with a totally different drive style and a totally different setup. It's because you have to mimic them. So if you drive a certain way and then you drive someone else who drives totally different, you're going to be thrown off your game because you're like, oh, I normally come into this turn like 60 miles per hour and clutch kick. This guy came in at 80 miles per hour and drug his handbrake, and then you're trying to like chase him down, and then you come in way too fast and then you crash. So
see,
it's
I'm really excited to tandem for that reason, because like with my personality, like I don't like doing the same thing over and over. So
that's
being
why
able
it's so
to
fun. That's why
yeah,
it's super fun.
you know,
Get
you're,
into
you're
the
having to audit yourself on the fly.
And that's one of the reasons why I was telling you is like, don't get you a car that's too nice, because you're not gonna want to hit anything. And tandem's all about proximity and getting on people's doors and trying to mimic their drive style. So it's like sometimes when you crash, it's not even your fault. They might have fucked up a little bit, choked up, and you came in hoping that they hit it perfectly and hit them. So
Yeah.
And when you have too nice of a car, you're not going to throw it in. There's a reason why like that group is called animal style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's aggressive. You know what I mean? You're throwing it in hard. You're throwing it in aggressive, animal style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're not going to do that if you have a nice, pretty fucking car. Yeah.
It's not like pussyfooting style. No one wants to see fucking cars like 5 car lengths behind because they're too scared to, get close to someone. So, but at the same time, that's where it's like a fine line, because like you don't want your car to be a piece of shit, but you don't want it to be too nice. But like I feel like the ultimate, it's kind of like swag. Like the ultimate swag is to have like the nicest looking possible car, but you also drive it like it's a $500 piece of shit. Yeah. Because then you're just throwing it in. You're going hard as fuck. It looks good because you're super aggressive, and the car is super clean. So people are like, "Damn, I can't believe he's throwing that car like that around." So when your car is beat up,
when I took the Genesis to the track for the first time, that was the only time I ever been on a track. And when I got back in the stands, someone was talking about it. They were like, "Yeah, that red car. We were really surprised how it was like the newest fucking car out there." And I was out there sending it. I'm thinking to myself, like, now that I haven't had the car for a couple years, I'm like, that's probably the stupidest shit I ever did, was drive a leased car on a fucking track.
But that's the thing, you're in the infield. It's not like you were running the walls and shit like that. Like, that's why.
No, but still, it was just like, that shit, it ain't even my fucking car.
Yeah. Technically, my car is not my car either. It's sponsored by Fifth Third Bank.
Yeah, I bought mine all cash. I can't do that.
I owe $1,200 left on it, so.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
It's literally like 2 payments away.
Hell yeah, I was watching the FRS drift today.
It was probably mine. No, I'm just kidding.
I did watch your. I know, yeah. You definitely either have a lot of grip or not enough power for how much I was seeing your. Did you put any angle on it?
I put some tie rod spacers. That's it. So little to no angle.
Yeah, I put the tie rod spacers on here that everyone recommended, like the P2M ones, and it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed.
Well, that's the thing is, I came from a Miata, so it's like I've learned to drive with little to no angle. So it's like for me, angle is not like a big thing, and like for me, big angle is cool as shit, but to be able to use big angle, you need big power. You know what I mean? So when your car is fucking 200 horsepower from the factory, like you don't need fucking angle mods. You know what I mean? Like I don't give a shit what anybody says. You do not need angle mods for your stock 240. You'll just learn how to drive it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I was really happy because any kind of research I did on this car, they were spot on. Like with the.
Well, that's a good thing about using a car that everybody's using, is there's a lot more information out there. Yeah. So when I started drifting with the Miata, anytime I looked up find things about drift and Miata, everyone said stay away from a Miata. Don't use a Miata. It's terrible drift car. It's terrible drift car. It's terrible drift car. I go to my first drift event. There's this fucking crazy guy named Ben with a crashed Miata with a roll cage. I'm like, that thing looks sick. It's turboed. I was like, can I go for a ride along? He fucking rides the bank, third gear, wide open throttle. And I'm like, yep, I'm building a Miata. I don't care what the internet says. And, and yeah, I went down in a deep hole with that car.
I will never forget that thing.
But it was fun. And every single time I talk to him about possibly buying it, my emotions, I get super excited. I'm like, I'm about to buy my car back. And then after like a day or two, I'm like, I don't need to buy that thing back. It's just a fucking money pit.
That's another money pit. You already got one.
Yeah. At least this one is like, because since I work for Subaru, I can use burners. So I get free tires. So like a drift event for me, like this last drift event cost me between 100 and 150 bucks because between gas, entry fee, and food, because all my tires were free. You know what I mean?
So those are used tires?
Yeah, those are used tires.
Well, yeah, see, that's another thing is like, I thought about going to the used tire route because that's what I did with the Genesis so much. And it just, I want to make sure I can eliminate all of the randomness to where I'm consistent as fuck. I know it'd be a little bit more expensive, but I think
you're spot on. Like what you're thinking is fact. Like if you stay with the same tire over and over and over and over and over and over again, like a new tire, and you buy the same one over and over and over and over again, you get used to that tire, and then you can figure out other things. But if you're switching tires, like the whole car's dynamic changes. You know what I mean? It will respond totally different on this tire than this tire. So for me, it's all about trying to find the optimal grip with whatever burner tire I put on this time. So it's
see, to me, I don't like learning like that. I mean, I did it with the Genesis, but so like now, I think my biggest takeaway from the first event is I can tell you immediately when this car has too much grip now.
Yeah.
So the good thing is that once I get the Kendas, I'm just gonna put it up to whatever 35 psi. You know, whatever that psi is. I messaged Matt the Genge, and he gave me a rundown on what he says he does, like 25 to 30, or he recommended me do 25 to 30 because he has a really grippy rear suspension.
Yeah.
And like that's another thing. It's like,
well, that's pretty much what I do too. Is I start off at 30 normally on these burners, and I work my way all the way down to 12. So anything less than 12, I rolled the bead, and it fucking just comes off the wheel.
Have you done that already?
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, like 9 pounds.
Yeah. Well, that's how I found that between 12 and 15 is that sweet spot before it rolls off the bead, and especially at Orlando, because when you're coming across that middle, it's bouncy, so the sidewall is digging like this, and then it just fucking rolls and bloop, comes off, and then you're like kind of mad because you have a perfectly good tire, but you can't mount it unless you have like brake fluid or brake clean and a lighter to try to like pop it back onto the bead. Yeah, because it rolls pretty good.
Well, that's another thing that I was really excited for was I was really surprised at how well I was linking the turns, and like I have no idea anything about this car. Yeah, like nothing. Yeah. Like I have ISR coils that I have no idea how they are. I don't know how high they are. I literally know nothing about the car.
Yeah. So well, that's the thing. It's like you don't need much. Is like the biggest thing that everybody thinks they need all this stuff. What in Australia, they call it all you need is a choppy and a weldy, and that means all you need is chopped knuckles and a welded diff. That's it. You don't even need coilovers. You need a choppy and a weldy. And they just fucking send it. Because it's mostly driver skill, and a lot of people are like, I need this part, I need this part. Because you see these YouTube videos and you see people putting these parts on, so you're like, I need that to be good. But it's like, nah, you should be good stock. And if you go like on my YouTube channel and you watch my first video with the FRS, I'm sending it stock, and then I do a little bit of changes. And then I'm sending it, and then I do a little bit of changes. I send it, do a little bit of changes, and you adapt with the car. If you can't drive the car at the state it's at, without doing like basic stuff, tire pressure and a basic alignment, if you can't drive it, you need seat time. Yeah. You don't need to fucking put 60 degrees of angle and coilovers and all this crazy shit to be able to drift. And that's what everybody's like mistake. And With your 350Z, it's stock as fuck. It has basic bolt-on coilovers, some spacers, and then an exhaust. Like, that's it.
Yeah, an intake and an exhaust.
Yeah, you don't need much, and a welded diff. So you pretty much have a weldy and a choppy, but you have some bonus coilovers. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and then the only other mods that I did to the car were just for like reliability, like the oil cooler and the bushings.
Yeah. And essentially, you don't even need the oil cooler and the bushings when you think about it, because it's a stock car. The car is designed to drive 400 miles on a tank of gas or whatever, 300 miles on a tank of gas.
Yeah, but it's not designed to stay at $7,000 the whole time.
Well, that's the thing. When you drift, you only stay at $7,000. If you go out there and say you send it the entire time, you don't mess up one time, those tires are going to blow in about 2 minutes if you're just straight sending it and smoking it. So the thing that gets up to temp the most is the fucking coolant. So you just got to watch, your coolant temperature. And the oil killer is like, it's good, but at the same time, you don't even know what your oil temp is. So you're just throwing a fucking rock in a pond and hoping that, your oil temp is staying down. But a car is designed to drive 400,000 mile, 5,000 mile trip. It can withstand 2 minutes of, drifting. Obviously, you're going to want to use a better grade oil so it doesn't break down super, super fast. Like if you're using like cheap conventional oil, it's going to break down. But if you put fucking AMS oil, racing oil in it, it's meant to withstand abuse. And
another thing is I wanted to start running Royal Purple. I heard that I've always been a fan of that oil. Maybe just because it's the name. I don't know how it's branded.
It's the brand and it's the color. Honestly, it's got a crown on it.
Listen, I've used it in my Toyota for years.
It's purple. You're like, oh yeah, I'm getting that Royal Purple.
Listen, so they're the new sponsors of Formula Drift.
Good for them.
Hell yeah, I was so pumped.
They're a style brand when you think about it.
That's what
I'm sure
I fucking love.
They have science behind their shit. I'm sure. They do. But my thing is, the thing that annoys me, well, it doesn't really annoy me because I just think it's funny, is like, you're like, I'm going to use Royal Purple. It's like, I have an oil cooler. It's like, why wouldn't you invest your money into an oil temp sensor and actually know what the fuck your oil's doing to see if you actually need an oil cooler, to see if you actually
that's the thing though. That's why I bought the 350Z, is that everybody's done that shit already for me. They've already
but you still want that data. You just can't trust these kids on the internet because half of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's why you added an oil cooler and solid bushings right away.
Listen. The people I'm getting. Hold on.
Go watch.
Hold on.
Yo, go watch.
People I'm getting.
Go watch Drift Week.
Okay, but the people I'm getting my resources from is a little bit different than some random kid on the internet.
Nah,
these people that I'm getting it from are already pro.
Dude, go watch Luke Fink. Go watch Drift Week. The hardest drive-in week you could do with a drift car. That dude had choppies and a weldy and an Infiniti G35 four-door. That's it. And shredding all week long. Like fucking was like 11 days or some shit like that. Just sending it.
Well, yeah. Well, see, this is the exact difference between someone going all in on something and someone just going out there to have fun.
No, he's a pro. He knows. That's the thing. Is like everybody is just throwing shit.
But listen. This is.
That's it. You need the actual details. You need to know what your oil temp is. You need to know what your oil pressure is to know if you need a.
Look, I run on common sense. The shit's running at $7,000 the whole fucking time. Okay, obviously it will not hurt if I put a whole oil cooler on it. That's how I run. I don't need to look at no fucking data.
It won't hurt. None of that
shit.
Yeah, it won't hurt. But that's saying, let's say we took that. How much did you spend on your oil cooler setup?
$460.
All right. That's 4 tires. You could have went drifting.
Okay, listen.
You could have went drifting.
Listen.
Well, how many tires did you go into
my motor?
All
right. You want to pay for that motor?
Quotations, protecting your motor. You don't know. You don't know.
I do know. Listen, you know what? Because this is where I'm at. I trust a lot. I don't have trust issues. I can look at somebody and say, okay, you've been driving Z's for a long time. Why would you tell somebody to get an oil cooler? Oh, maybe because it probably heats the fuck up.
You ever talk to someone, right? They buy something and then you ask them their opinion about it, what is their opinion 90% of the time?
I know where you're trying to go with this.
They fucking love it. They don't want to admit that they wasted money on something. So they will try to sell you on the same thing that they spent money on to justify why they spent money on it. It's like, look, all these people are buying oil coolers. No. Like, come on.
Look, this is how I do my research, right? If multiple people are all saying the same thing, that are doing it way more than I'm doing it, count me in. I'm just check the box. I'll already go ahead and order it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
But the thing is like when you're on the internet, there's only like 1% of people actually doing it. If I would have listened to the internet, I would have never drifted a Miata. 99% of people said, this car's terrible. This car's terrible. You go out there and fucking it drives so good. I was running circles around.
I'm getting this information that are people in pro. They're literally in pro too. What? Why? I mean, who do you think I'm getting this information? Bob down the street?
Probably.
Don't get me wrong. Bob down the street could be on the internet, but I'm not listening to his dumb ass.
But the thing is, like, you're listening to a Pro 2 guy. Like, your car is grassroots. Listen to the guys in the grassroots. Go to an event. Like, people are just sending it. It'll be completely bone stock. You don't need that shit.
You know, it was really funny. And I'm really glad that you said just go to the events. Because I went to the events, and mine was the least modded Z there.
Yeah. Because you know what all those kids did? They're on the internet. I need this fucking angle kit. I need this damn coilover set. I need 285s and a wide body kit. And
I will tell you, it's definitely easy to get caught up in the bill. It definitely,
it's fun.
As much as I like to drive.
Yeah, it's fun to make changes and see those changes and then test them out on the track. But people don't.
It's like Adam LZ's. I'm literally creating his exact giveaway 350Z car. Okay, and how many times he and multiple people have said how good the 350Z is for lap after lap seat time.
It is.
And
I agree.
Like, I just noticed that, like, if I did not have the P2M tie rods on there, there was a couple of times I would have spun out and not understood the angle.
You would have knew. You'd have been like, I probably sent it a little too hard, ran out of angle.
It was just like it helped my transitioning is basically what it was.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. What is angle? What is angle for most people? Yeah. There's only a small amount of people who actually use angle properly. The rest of the people with angle, what do they use it for? It's a crutch. I over-rotated. I should have spun out, but luckily I have 70 degrees of angle because I have a wide angle kit on my grassroots car. You know what I mean?
Yes. So on that point, my dad loves racing, but he doesn't know much about drifting. Yeah. And so I was explaining to him about this one car that was out there, and that's what he was doing. He had a nice ass car and he could drive it, but there was actually a lot of points where the only thing that saved him was his angle that was fucking turned backwards. Yeah. And like you could see where it was like a flaw in his driving because he probably went from stock to all the way to fuck Wisefab.
Yeah, probably. And a lot of people do.
And it's like there's so much flaw in that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying like you don't need angle. It's like the only time you need angle is when you're in pro and you have the horsepower to drive at that angle. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the only time you need angle. Other than that, because like you need it because you have to mimic these cars. So if this guy's coming in at 70 degrees and you only have 50 degrees, you're fucked to a degree. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Degree, pun intended.
You see that in basic math. No. But yeah. So it is what it is. And it's just like at the level that you're at, you don't need all that stuff. But at the same time, it's not going to hurt anything. You know what I mean? I agree. The oil cooler's not going to hurt anything. But to me, I look at it like you spent money in this aspect, which could have been seat time. What's going to make you a better driver, an oil cooler or seat time?
But listen. You're looking for now, and I'm looking for the future. That's the thing. It's like, listen, I skip all I make all the. Okay, well, this is a perfect example. Okay, February. When was the Orlando one? Like February 2nd. The point is, doesn't matter. the point is that I only missed one drift event due to me using an oil cooler or not using an oil cooler. And what that's going to save me in the long run could be a $2,000 bill.
Dude, all I'm saying is seat time is more important than building your car. That's it.
Well, that's why
That's all I'm saying. You went to this one event with one set of tires. You could have bought 4 more tires instead of an oil cooler and fucking shredded all night long. But you had to shut it down early. You had to shut it down early.
How many rims? You have that many rims?
Bro, I'm experienced warrior out here, guys.
Okay. I've been in this for 4 months.
Dude, I'm an experienced warrior. I know what you need out there. I'm fucking trying to guide you.
Listen, next on my list, if you can find some 350Z stock rims for me.
I'm not looking for wheels for you. You know how to use Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, I know. I've been looking.
Buy a set of wheels. I just bought wheels this morning. I don't even need wheels. I bought 4 more wheels just because. No, I bought some 18s because.
But anyways, speaking of that, do you think it would be a good idea, or do you think it will be feasible of me buying stock rims?
Yes, I have 8 stock FRS rims that I use for spares.
Okay.
So you have to look at rims, and the good thing about 350Z wheels, they're already wide from the factory. So you won't need another set of wheels. The bad thing about the wheels on an FRS or BRZ, you're limited to a 215, maybe a 225. So because of how wide the wheel is, the 350Z, the stock wheel is already pretty fucking wide. So you can get away with some pretty wide tires.
Yeah.
So you should be fine with just rocking Steely or stock wheels, not Steelies.
No, they're not Steelies, thank God.
But yeah, so pretty much like my wheel setup right now, I have 8 stock FRS wheels. So I can run from 205 to 225 with those wheels. And then I have a 17 by 9. I have 2 more of those. That allows me to run from a 235 all the way up to a 255, 265. Well, I think 255 is the widest you can go for a by 9. And then I have 17 by 8s, which I use for the front that I'm running 225 sticky tires on. And then I just bought 18 by 9.5s because then I can run from 245 all the way to 275, I think.
Yeah, and so what you were saying is, so I'm just going to run a 265 Kendas, and I think that should be fine on a stock.
But see, even then, you have to measure that because the new rule book states you have to use a 255. So if you practice on 265s all the time, you get used to that tire, then you go down to 255 and you got to relearn all over again. Not necessarily, but suppose.
No. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to keep the car less grippy to understand the chassis completely. Okay, and basically get all my figure 8s, all my donuts, all my transitions, all my e-brake entries, all on the recommended. Everybody recommends the 265 Kendas for longevity and all that, and grip on top of that.
Price per tire, supposedly. I haven't tested it, so I haven't been able to test that theory.
But so I'm just gonna go all in on those 265s, and just until I have the chassis completely down, and then I'm gonna go to the expensive, super grippy 255s, and then get that down.
Yeah,
because those are way more expensive.
But the thing is, from what I've heard the other day, because I listened to a lot of podcasts, and they were talking about they have a tool supposedly to measure the tire, and supposedly some 265 tires are not 265 millimeter; they're like 260, so they'll still pass. You know what I mean? For Pro-Am and Pro 2, supposedly. Is what I heard, is what the rule book says. So you just have to, if you buy a Kenda 265, you just measure it, millimeters, and then you see if it's within standard or not. Because you might be able to use that brand tire all the way through Pro-Am. But then you also got to look at, like, Pro-Am's kind of weird because they got shootouts now, and they have, like, organizations that do like 4 events or 5 events with points. So it depends where you go also. Because you could dial your car in, get used to it, get really, really comfortable with it, and then they're having a shootout in Vegas. I think it's $500 to enter. But I think you have to win it to get your Pro 2 license. So
that's pretty cool, though. It's just one event that you can win and do.
It's one
That's
event.
Insane.
Yes. But you also I think it's like a double elimination bracket. So it's like you have to win twice, technically, pretty much, because
Yeah.
if someone gets eliminated, they could go all the way through the losers bracket, and then you have to face them again or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at the same time, is like you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So let's say you have car trouble, or something happens, or someone hits you, and you don't fix your car in time, like you're fucked. Like you're risking your whole season on one shootout. Granted, there's multiple shootouts across the country, but I don't know. My thing is, like, if you can't run a sanctioned event, like if you can, well, not that you can't run, but let's say if you can't maintain your car to run 4 events for the year with travel and food and fixing your car in between
that's
events,
what I want to do no matter what, for the
I think that's the way
the journey.
It should be, because like then that's actually preparing you for, Pro 2. Because if you do one shootout, right? Let's say you win this shootout, you spend all your money building the car.
You're gonna be clueless.
Say you got lucky, and then like you get your license, and then you go to Pro 2 next year, and then you have to drop 80 G's on travel.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to utilize that license, and you're going to be in for a rude awakening. But I think a lot of people are just doing it to hopefully, like, oh, I got my Pro 2 license, maybe I can get some sponsors, and it will guide me to where I can get my Pro 1 license. We'll have to see. Only time will tell. But I have a feeling I feel like FD will probably get rid of these shootout events, but I don't know. Who knows?
That's interesting. I didn't even know that there was a shootout.
Yeah.
See, I want to go through the journey. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Like, it was so satisfying building this car for 4 months, and then that very first track event, like, dude, I was like so happy, nervous. Like, it was like I was so excited to be able to be like, yo, like, I've been building this shit for so long. We've been doing little tests here and there, like down the street, I heard, or I found out that TikTok will not let you post street drifting.
Probably it's illegal.
Yeah, I was pissed as fuck. Like,
those are like my favorite videos, are like the Russian street drift videos.
Yeah.
It's fucking snowing outside.
We got nothing on the fucking Russians, bro.
BMW just like
they're on a different level.
It's fucking sideways, transitioning.
That is the fucking music, bro.
Like those are my favorite videos. I'm just like, man, like those guys are fucking shredders.
Bro, yeah, for sure.
I do that shit with my car though too. That's the one good thing about having a street drift car, is when it rains outside. And like,
you have 1,000 horsepower.
I have 1,000 horsepower, baby. Every turn I'm coming at 5 miles per hour. Clutch kick.
Yeah.
Fucking, and it's fun, and you kind of get your itch. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it definitely helps to where you don't want to dump all your money into going to these events because oh, it rained outside. Let me just get a little, side to side, fishtail down the main road. But at the same time, you're also risking getting tickets and all that stuff. But yeah. So that's pretty much what this podcast is about. We went on a little rant, which we probably will do all the fucking time.
No, we will do.
Because that's the way we are. So if you have any, questions, or you want us to talk about something specifically, just, let us know.
Yeah, hit us up in the comments. Let us know things that we can work on and things that you want to talk about as well.
Yeah, for sure.